You're listening to the Quoted Podcast Season 14 with 10 episodes, 10 guests, and 10 quotes. So let's get into today's episode. Everyone, and welcome back to the Quoted Podcast. I'm super excited to be starting Season 14, which is going to be another season with quotes. And yeah, today's guest is Brooke Mertz. So welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, we have some deeper questions and then some rapid fire. So I'll start off with, what does prayer look like to you?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Something that's really important for me when it comes to prayer is just being real with God. And what's really comforting for me is that he already knows our every need and he knows everything about us. So when we're coming to him with like a request or like a struggle, it's not new information for him. Like it's not something we have to like reveal to him. Like he already knows it all. So, but it just deepens the relationship when you are praying. And because like I've heard the analogy 100 times, like with friends, like you talk to them if you want to have a good relationship with them, and like it should be the same thing with God. And so that just helps me like keep going in my prayer life and like keep wanting to deepen the relationship with him.
Yeah, and the more we reach out to God, the more time we spend with him, the better our prayer life could become also.
For real.
That's really good. When you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, what do you do? How do you get rid of those feelings?
Okay, well, that's something that happens a lot. So I feel like it depends on the person of how you handle situations, but something that's so universal is just remembering like the truth about God and the fact that everything's in his hands and just like breathing and resting in him. And something that's been really super helpful for me lately is just realizing like how temporary everything is. I've been reading a lot of Ecclesiastes, and I feel like some people either really like Ecclesiastes or it's kind of like sad. But when you're in like those hard moments, it kind of changes your perspective to where you're like, oh, like this isn't forever. Like this is so temporary. This won't matter next week in an hour. And it's just really helped me change my perspective and not focus so much on things I don't have control over or like things that went wrong. And it also helps me stay in the moment when things are going well. So it's just been so helpful for me, and I would encourage people to read Ecclesiastes if you're having those like feelings.
And that reminds me of the fact that I'm about to graduate, and you are too, and how stressful finals week can be. And I was actually talking to Grace Korak the other day and telling her how much her music means to me and how she always posts a song right when I need it. And I was telling her how stressed I was with school, and she said, well, none of this is going to matter next week. So it just reminded me, like, maybe this stress and feeling of being overwhelmed is temporary. You're not going to be worried about this 2 weeks from now.
Exactly.
And so that just also helps me. And then, and songwriting. I love writing songs when I'm stressed. And I know you do too.
Oh, yes.
And music just in general is very helpful.
I agree.
Speaking of songwriting, what is your favorite thing about it?
Well, songwriting just like is my favorite thing. So it's really hard to like pinpoint it, but it's just having the ability to be able to put my feelings into words and like further into like a song and just exactly replicate how I'm feeling. It just got me through a lot of those hard moments we were talking about earlier. And writing is just so therapeutic in general, and it's always been like my go-to like coping mechanism when things are bad, but also when things are like going well. I want to write a song about every little.
Yes, that's so good. And just like music in general and lyrics that you can relate to is just really important and fun. So yeah, I definitely love that as well. If you saw Jesus walking down the street right now, what would you do?
Oh wow. I'd like to think of what I would do. I feel like I would just be in such like an awe and like state of amazement. I like wouldn't know what to do. But I love the story of like the woman with the alabaster jar in the Bible. I think it's like in Luke, and it talks about how she like takes this really expensive like jar of perfume that's like her year's wages, and she breaks it and dumps it at the feet of Jesus. And I just like to think of that as such like a moment of full surrender. Like she's pouring his life out on her feet. And I like to think that that's what it'd be, like a moment of like recognition of his glory and like surrender to him, because it would just be so incredible because like to be in his presence.
For sure. Yeah. And that also makes me think of Mary and Martha and the story where I always forget which one was which, but one of them just wanted to take time to spend with Jesus, and the other was trying to make the house look good and just all this different stuff. And I love that story because it reminds us to be the one who's just sitting at Jesus' feet and just listening to him speak, and not being the one that's so worried about getting everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And just that moment of just quiet with Jesus is so important. And so I also feel like if I saw Jesus walking down the street, I would just want to spend time with him and just surrender in general.
Yes, I agree.
How do you stay connected to God on a daily basis?
Well, I think the easiest thing to do is just be consistent with like staying in the Word and prayer, and just surrounding yourself with him and spending time with him, like we kind of talked about earlier. But the biggest thing for me recently has been being around like-minded people, because my sophomore year I switched from public school to a private Christian school, and it was like such a game changer for me, because everyone that I was like close friends with and all my teachers and like the whole staff was all Christians, and being able to be like built up by them and ask them questions and them giving me like godly advice was so life-changing. And I'm so thankful that those people can just help me build my faith. And like having Bible studies at school and like chapel at school is like unheard of, so just getting to spend more time with him has been so amazing.
Yeah, that is super good. I used to go to private school as well, and I just remember loving Bible class and just loving being in that community, and I definitely miss it sometimes. But yeah, just being in a community with people that are Christians too is so amazing. And I love that you have that. What do you think is the biggest misconception about Christians, and how would you respond to that?
Oh, I have a big opinion on this. Right now, what's been really like hitting my heart is just like the stigma around like Christians and Christianity and how judgmental they all are. And I just like to put it out there that like, not all Christians are like that, but unfortunately, a lot of them are. And when people experience like this church hurt, or they're attacked by someone claiming to be a Christian, it does like turn them away sometimes, and they never get to experience the love of Jesus because of it. And I think that's so unfair for them. I really noticed this like whole issue like around like Taylor Swift recently. And yeah. So I love Taylor, and so I really noticed this whole issue with like Christians being judgmental around like Taylor, and I've seen lots of posts online about how like Christians shouldn't listen to Taylor, and like her lyrics are demonic, like don't listen to that and all that stuff. And it just kind of hurts my heart, because like some of her songs, like you can tell that she's like a woman who's been really hurt by the church, and those people who are saying those things about her like aren't loving her well as Christians. And just like people in general, if they don't know the Lord and they're living like the world, you shouldn't judge them on that basis, because they don't know the Lord. And so I think it's really hard. But the song "But Daddy I Love Him" from her new album really just stood out to me about how she has just been really hurt by the church. And she starts it out by saying like Sarah's and Hannah's in their Sunday best, clutching their pearls, sighing, "What a mess. I just learned these people try to save you because they hate you." And I was just like, whoa, because I've experienced a lot of like church hurt. We had to leave the church that I went to for 13 years last August. So it's been a transition period, but like I totally understand.
Oh my goodness.
I always say I totally understand like why people who like aren't strong in their faith to begin with would like leave Christianity because of the people in the church. But because I was be able to recognize that like that's not who Jesus is, and like make that draw that line in the sand of like these are imperfect people and Jesus is perfect and he loves you no matter what, and these people are not being a good representation of Jesus. It's been such a cool like thing to realize, and because I was also scared to start going to a new church, but just realizing that not all churches are like that and not all people are like that, because people make that generalization because so many people are, and I just hate that.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about But Daddy, I Love Him, and so I think that's really interesting that you brought that song up. And yeah, I have heard all of the things about Taylor Swift, and I definitely feel like people do sometimes put a negative connotation on Christians and say that they're stuck up and stuff.
Pride of your religion is so interesting because that's like the opposite of how we should be living, but that's how people interpret it because they feel better than others because they know Jesus, when we should really be like helping them and showing them Jesus when they are in that place of hurt.
I just feel like sometimes people, they also get hurt by the church and then they leave and they blame God for it, when you can't blame God for what people are doing.
Totally agree with you. And yeah, like near the end of the song she says like you ain't gotta pray for me, and it just like broke my heart. And then the song Cassandra, she says I bet they never spared a prayer for my soul, and it's just like they're going about it wrong, like they're attacking her lifestyle right now, like where she doesn't know the Lord. But when you really should be showing those people Lord and not judging them and condemning them, because like in Romans, I think it's Romans 8:1, is that there's no condemnation in Christ, and that's like such good news. But you should be living like that instead of tearing these people down because of how they're living when they don't know the Lord.
Yeah. Amen. That's really good. Quote of the episode today is, I stopped venting and started praying because I don't need sympathy, I need strength. So when you hear this, what are your thoughts on it and what does it mean to you?
I love this quote so much. It's so cool, especially in like a culture where venting is such like a encouraged thing almost, where you're like, oh, I just need to vent, I just need to get it off my chest, and the people you're talking to are usually like close friends who you just want to like affirm you and just be like, yeah, they were totally in the wrong, like I can't believe that happened, and you're gaining their sympathy, but their sympathy doesn't really do anything when you're giving it all to God and you're praying and you're not just ranting to your friends about all the bad things that happen. It just takes that weight off your shoulders, and he'll like strengthen you through that. And because sympathy or like pity from someone doesn't really help you, but like the Lord will help you, and it'll help you get through whatever situation that you're angry about.
And that makes me think about Claudia Campbell's podcast, which is one of my favorites right now. And in one of her episodes, she was talking about relationships. And she said something about how she used to always talk about guys with her friends. And it would kind of be like the delusional following the delusional. Like she would think something was going to happen with her and someone else and it didn't, and all of this. And so she just talked about how when she stopped talking about the relationships that she wanted to her friends, she was able to like stop focusing on that so much and focus on God more, because a lot of the times we want love so much that we get lost and we forget about the fact that God is the one who loved us first.
Yes.
And we don't need to be so worried about all of that because he's got someone for us. And and just all of that, waiting seasons are so important. And so that's what that makes me think of, just praying about all of that instead of just venting about it. is so much better.
I think that's so cool. And also, like, adding on to that, when you're talking about that podcast, just, like, making sure you have friends that won't just, like, agree with your every word, because I want people who are honest with you and who will be like, hey, like, you shouldn't be doing that, and who are, like, honest with you and who would rather, like, pray with you about something versus just listening to your rant and agreeing with your every word because they know that's what you want.
Okay, well, now it's time to get to some fun questions to end off the episode. So, first off, if you made a playlist of your top 5 favorite worship songs, what would they be?
Ooh, right now I'm really loving the song. Do you know the song called The Blood? It's super good. I love it. And then Touch of Heaven.
I feel like I haven't heard those in a while, but I know that if I did, I would recognize them. So I'm gonna go back and listen to them.
Yes.
And yeah, they all sound like really good songs.
So good.
And changing it up a bit, if you made a playlist of your top 5 favorite pop songs, what would those be?
I mean, ever since Torture Post Department came out, that is, I'm going to be honest, that's basically the only thing I've been listening to. But before that came out, I listened to Espresso probably 100 times. And I have this cute little app that, like, tracks it so me and my friends can, like, look at what we're listening to. And my friends will send me screenshots and they'll be like, you listen to Espresso 45 times a day? And I'll be like, yeah.
That made me laugh. That was really funny.
It's so funny. Because put it on repeat because it flowed very seamlessly and it's like a 2-minute song. But so that's probably one of them. I've been listening to Maisie Peters' album The Good Witch for a little bit, and I love the song The Band and I from that.
Yes.
It's so cute. And then We're Not Alike by Tate McRae has been a regular. And then honestly, just like the rest of the Torture Post Department, fill in whatever slots I have left.
I love all of those songs so much. Yeah, I totally agree. So, what was the last Bible verse that you read?
Oh, okay. This morning I was reading in Exodus, and I read a bunch of chapters, but the one that stuck out to me the most was the chapter about the Passover, and just like the origin of that I kind of forgot because like it talks about it a lot in the New Testament, but like the origin of it was when all the plagues were going on in Egypt, and the Lord like all the firstborn children unless you put like the blood of an unblemished lamb above your doorpost, and he'll like pass over that house, I guess. And I just thought it was really cool. And I was thinking about like the faith aspect you had to have had if you were one of the Israelites in that, because I'm sure there were people who were like, oh yeah, for sure, and just like put it out in full faith that God would pass over them. But I'm sure there's probably people there who are like, I don't know, like if that's gonna happen, like I don't know if that even if I put the blood up, if it'll protect like my firstborn, but like they did it anyway. Like the level of faith like is the same, like even though he had like that seed of doubt in his mind, like he still would have put the blood on the doorpost. And that's just what I've been thinking about a lot, because even if you have doubt and you choose to like trust in the Lord anyway, like there's still the same amount of reward.
That's an interesting way to think about it, because I've never thought about it like that. There probably were people that were like kind of unsure, but then they were like, okay, I'm gonna trust. This is gonna keep me. Yeah. Okay, I love that. What is your favorite Bible verse?
It was in Exodus 14, and yeah, we're just staying with the Old Testament, and it was when they were crossing the Red Sea, verses 13-14, they say, fear not, stand firm, and see that the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you only have to be silent. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, we just need to trust in him and like stand firm in our faith and let him fight for you. And we don't have to do anything, because I feel like I need to be doing something, but just letting the Lord fight for you and just like being silent is such a cool way to look at life and just in general.
What is the last book that you read?
I read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and instant top 3. I love it so much.
What would you say are your other top books?
Ooh, my favorite book is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. These are all like really niche, like gothic romance novels. Like romance like the era, not like love romance though.
Okay.
But like and then Jane Eyre is that's not super specific, but so Rebecca, Jane Eyre, and the Bell Jar are the top 3 right now. And I don't feel like that's gonna change for a long time. But we'll see. I love them so much.
I love reading people's favorite books, but there's so many books that I want to read. It's a lot. But I really want to read all of those.
Yeah, they're so good.
Because yeah, if you say they're good, I believe you. So, and I was thinking about the Bell Jar earlier. I want to try to get to that one first soon.
I think you would like it. There's something that really just like has stood out to me after reading that book. Like there's a passage where she's talking about this fig tree, and it's this really really cool analogy, and about how it's like there's this girl sitting under a fig tree, right? And she's looking up at it, and there's all sorts of different figs, and she's like, one fig is having a family, one's becoming a famous poet, one's traveling the world, and like all these different options, because she's like 19 in the book. She's like, there's so many different things I could be doing right now. And so she's looking up at all like the possibilities, and she can't pick because she wants all of them. And so the whole premise is she just sits there and she watches them all like shrivel up and like die essentially because she couldn't pick. And it just really emphasized the need to make a decision for me, like the need to just choose and be content in your choice, and knowing that there were other options like is good, but just being happy with what you chose and making that initial decision, because I feel like I'm so indecisive. But I was talking to my English teacher the other day, and she was talking about how sometimes God lets you choose. Like I feel like I'm scared that I'm making the wrong decision and like it's not God's will for my life. But she's like, sometimes he lets you choose and he'll use you in whatever situation you're in. And I think that was so cool. It just like relieved like the burden of like needing to pick the right thing but not knowing what was right. But just the fact that he'll use you wherever you're at is so comforting. And that analogy was just so cool.
That is very encouraging. Like that God will use you wherever you're at, because I'm also very indecisive, and I'm always thinking about like the possibility of like what will happen if I do this. And so that's a really good reminder how I love books that make you think and that just have really cool meanings to them. Because that's when I get out all my pens and I start annotating.
Yes, my favorite.
And those are the books that I always recommend to people.
Yes,
I'm very excited to check out the Bell Jar.
Yes, do it. Would recommend.
Okay, what is the name of the last?
Oh, I just wrote a song called The Table, which seems odd, but it's like a contemporary Christian song, and I was reading the part in the Bible where Jesus like went to Zacchaeus' house, and the Pharisees got all mad that they were like sitting at like his table and he was eating with all these sinners and whatever. And it just got me thinking. I was like, that's so interesting, because like he's like, I came to be the great physician, like I came for the sick, not the healthy. And so I wrote this chorus that it goes like, I bring nothing to the table, God, you are more than able to work it for your good. It's your hands that made the heavens, your sacrifice unleavened. I'd be nowhere without you, and I bring nothing to the table, but you still let me sit there with you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool little idea.
Yes, I also love songs that just really make you think about their meaning. And that I feel like sometimes people question whether or not they're allowed at God's table because of all the things that they've done. And the reality is we're all welcome there, but we just have to choose to sit down. And yeah, really spend time with God. And so I love that so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's also interesting because like Judas like sat at the table, like at Jesus's table during Passover, like right before, and Jesus knew what he was gonna do. He knew he was gonna betray him, but he still let him have a seat at his table.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Do you think you'll ever post a little snippet of this one?
I'm planning on it. We'll see.
Okay. I'm so excited to hear it.
Oh, yay.
What is the next concert you're going to?
I'm going to the Guts tour in July, and I'm so excited.
Yay. I'm so excited for you too. It was really fun when I went. I just wish that the bonus tracks were already out because I've heard that she's saying So American in Dublin.
Oh, I hope so. That would be so fun.
And I hope she sings it for you too because
I love So American.
Oh my goodness, I love that song too. Yeah, it's going to be so fun. And ending off with the last question, what is your favorite song from Taylor's new album?
That's so challenging. I actually love this whole album. Like, usually I listen to, like, well, when all of her things come out, like, I listen. I was like, this genuinely was the one I was the most excited for because I'm someone who loves, like, words and poetry, and I know she was going to pull out all the stops because it was called the Tortured Poets Department, and I was so excited, and it did not disappoint. So there were so many that were so good, but I gotta say it's wonderful. I love it.
You said Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because it cut off, no. But I think you can still hear it.
Okay, that's what
I completely agree because that one's my favorite too. I never have called myself a Taylor fan, but I do love poetry, and so when I saw the title of this album, I thought, well, I'm super excited to listen because I gave Midnights a chance. And it wasn't really my favorite.
Yeah, this is a whole different vibe.
Yeah, like this is my cup of tea.
Good.
And I love it. And I did not claim any tracks before I listened, but Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, and Thank You, Amy are my favorites.
That's a fun top 3. I like that.
And I also don't know why Thank You, Amy is my favorite, but I just think, like, the idea that she was brave enough to put out a song about what Kim did.
Yeah, she's bold.
Is cool, yeah. Like, I feel like there are so many people that get treated wrong and never say anything. And also, I don't know the whole story, but...
Yeah, she called her out for sure.
Yeah, it's good to see someone calling someone out. If she did anything wrong. Yeah. So, yeah, I love that song.
Love it so much.
Yeah. Do you have any other favorites?
Yes. My second favorite probably is I Hate It Here. And I think it's so cool. And I feel like you probably like this one too because it's talking about like the secret, like the book, The Secret Garden. And I actually like used to read that when I was a kid. And I was like, this is so cool because I read so many books and I have so many little imaginary things going on in my head. And I was like, this is too relatable, Taylor. Where did that come from?
For real. And a little fun fact. So in the book I'm writing right now, I have the house that the main character lives in has a little secret passageway.
Oh, no way. It's so fun.
There's the book on a bookshelf that you have to pull to open it. I think I made it The Secret Garden.
Oh, good. That's so cool. I love that.
So I'm adding I Hate It Here to my little book playlist that I'm making.
Oh, yes.
So it all goes together.
I love that.
I'm very excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are all of the questions. Thank you for being on again.
Of course.
This was a really fun conversation. And yeah, okay. I will talk to you later.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Quoted Podcast. Come back next Thursday for more.